Hello again. We're continuing looking at grappling. This is actually our second to last, I think, probably on the grappling, unless my brain comes up with something else I want to cover. What I wanted to do was just have a quick look over some of the grappling we've looked at and look at what we call counters, how we get out of them, how you can deal with them. Because whilst you can always take the option that if you're grappled, you grab them back and you go into dirty boxing, there are times where you may not want to end up in a grapple. For example, if I'm fighting against Ian, the last place I want to end up is in a grapple with him, because he's taller than me and he's stronger than me and he will tie me up like a pretzel. So there are times when I don't want to be grabbed. I would rather keep this at distance. Some distance. Yeah, I just don't like fighting Ian. Right, so let's cover some of the basic ones. If Ian goes for a grabbing of the wrist to start with, it's quite a common setup. If I'm slightly out of range, grabbing the wrist to pull me in so that I can't get out of range of an incoming fist. So what I'm going to do quite simply, there's two ways I can do this. Either I'm going to pull this across to my chest here, so I'm just going to bend my elbow and then I turn my hand and I push into his hand. Yeah? And because I'm again pushing so that his hand kind of slips out between his thumb, and I can do that quite quickly, and there's really no way he can stay holding on there. I can do it the other way too. I can circle out this way, and then I'm now pushing towards the wrist, and I'm pushing across that way. The advantage of that one, if I choose to, is I can actually reverse the grapple and end up holding him when he was holding me a moment ago. Which, if it causes that level of confusion, is a great time for me just to shove him away and get out of there. So, wrist ones are worth knowing. More realistically, if you're setting up for grab, it's going to be against the shoulder, or collar, whatever, lining me up for that punch. So unfortunately, most of the techniques I've seen for this one go like, well, you grab here, or you bring this hand here, and I'm like, well, at this point, I'm on the floor. So we've got to be aware that there's another fist coming, so if you grab me, there's a few options that I can take here. One of them is that I can start that traditional break. I'm going to wrap over the top and grab the thumb. Now I'm grabbing the thumb pad, so that part of the hand just underneath the thumb. And then this hand is going to be dealing with whatever's coming in here as I turn that hand over. Once I've dealt with that, then I can bring my hand here and start to curl forward, forcing my opponent's skeleton just to bunch up. Yeah? Equally, again, I can do that the other way. Theoretically, I can reach across the little finger, but I feel this leaves me far too open. I end up going to hide behind my elbow, and I don't like it. But theoretically, I can turn that and get that other lock on. But it's not one I'm likely to use. Again, if you grab there, what again I'm more likely to use on a situation like this is as that punch comes in, I'm likely to take this side into an overhook, and that changes what was happening again very quickly and dynamically, and puts me in a situation where I can potentially strike and then get back out of distance again. So if you grab and come in with that other punch, if I'm blocking that as I'm taking that overhook, it puts you in a disadvantage quite quickly. Now, obviously, there's the double throat grab one, which everybody gets very excited about. This one, there's lots of stuff on it, and I've seen lots of rise up and drop down, or drying through and out here, and some of those will work, but it's going to depend how strong the other guy is. My go-to isn't actually to try and break the grapple, it's just to try and destroy my opponent. So from here, if they're grabbing, quickest thing I found that will let somebody let go, is if I just start punching into the biceps. And he will not want, and after a little while, any of those clears are going to work a bit because they're starting to let go. The trick is you have to remain calm, because whilst they're doing this, you can't breathe. But it only takes 3 or 4 hits to the biceps before they actually don't want to be holding you anymore. So, I know you can do lots of funky stuff, but that's the one I go for. Okay, if we're going into overhooks and underhooks, if you want to grab me on an overhand or an underhook. No. Yeah. So if I'm kind of here in any of this situation here, what I don't want to do is try and fight against it here or here. All I want to do is use this hand to throw out, partly because it's going to cover my face in case there's something coming to the other side. Again, it gives me a barrier. I want to hit that shoulder and straighten the arm. So if you see it from the other side, I don't want to be trying to stay like this. I'm going to straighten that arm, twist and hit the shoulder as I pull my arm back. And again, instantly, there's just no way you're holding on to that. And that gives me enough distance. So again, if you come in and grab me, whichever way you fit, sorry, under, overhook, whichever one you fancy. Again, from there, going the other side, straighten that arm. If I then twist my torso around, I will be able to slide through that grip because it's not particularly good. Okay, well, we're on to head grapples. It's your chance to get revenge for a few weeks ago. So if he grabs me by the head, boom, and if he then steps back, I don't want to end up in this situation. My head is now not between my feet. I'm off balance. My opponent has complete control. From here, I don't really have a lot of good options. Yeah, I'm trying to just push and clear out to the side, but he's going to adapt to that and he's going to have my neck. What I'm better doing is going with it. So when he comes in to do the grapple, as he pulls me back, I go down onto one knee. Yeah? From here, although I'm now grounded, my head is still above my knees. I've still got awareness, I've still got structure, and I have access to start striking here. I can block the knees with my arms because he doesn't have the room to really move them that far, and I can get a few strikes in here. If I want to, I can start to look grabbing the leg, going for dump tackles. There are ways that I can work out that situation. But the trick is not to end up unbalanced to start with. Once you're off balance, it's very hard to come back from that. So those are probably the main ones that are worth thinking about in terms of grappling. Once you're into the actual full-on, we're in here kind of situation, you're no longer looking at an escape from a grapple, you're looking from kind of escaping from a dirty boxing situation. Yeah, we're no longer just, I need to deal with both hands plus his body and everything else. And that's not to say I can't, you know, I can, we looked at doing purring to the shin, into the knee, I've got the head goes that way. I've moved, I've disengaged, but it's not going to be a one technique to get out of that situation. You're going to have to chain together things to get away from being in that close grapple. Anyway, it's always worth having a quick look at how you're going to get out if you do get caught. So there's a few things you can look at. We'll be kind of wrapping up next week. We'll be having a look at a few simple takedowns that we use. I really want to try and keep this standing, but there are some really good takedowns, very simple ones that we'll start having a look at to round off this week, which would then take us on to the more throwy side of jiu-jitsu, which we might pick up in a later series of videos. So until then, look after yourself. See you later.